You are watching an episode in our Landlording A to Z series, where we walk you through the steps, skills, and challenges involved with residential rental real estate investing. We share our expert advice, including the tips, tricks, and strategies we've learned over years of managing rental property. Please subscribe to our channel to get notified each time a new episode comes out, and please like and share our content with people you know who might be interested. Thanks for watching.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Landlording A to Z from Landlord Gurus. Today we are going to be talking about what we do at move-in. So we've gone through the whole process of getting a tenant signed in, leased up. We got the lease agreement signed, and they're ready to move in. You've agreed upon a date for when their lease will start, and now's the time. So what does that look like? What does the move-in look like? How do you prepare for it? So today we'll talk about the walkthrough inspections, collecting deposits and other move-in fees, and then key management and handover. So that's what we'll do today. Remember to like and subscribe and do all the things with the YouTube videos so that you get notified for when the next ones come out and continue on with the series. So let's just jump right in. Eli, how are you?
Yep. I'll pick it up with the walkthrough or move-in inspection process, which is really important. It's the way that you document the condition of the property at the point that the tenant is moving in, so that for both of you, it's really clear what they're getting. And then also when they move out, what disparity there is. Has any damage happened? And so this is the process where you go through and do that inspection. In some places, it's mandatory. We certainly recommend it. It's just good practice to avoid any kind of disputes. And what you'll do is you'll go through the whole property, essentially documenting the condition of all the surfaces, the floors, ceilings, walls, paint, blinds, windows, checking operation. You look at appliances, and my take on this is that I tell my tenants is that they take the lead on this, and we'll get into that in a little bit more in a minute, but they take the lead on this so that it's their way of documenting to cover their own interests, that what was already pre-existing.
Exactly. And comparing it to what then it looks like at the end of their tenancy. And I'll just jump in and say, like, normal wear and tear is not deducted from deposits. Damages, and there are some, kind of nuances in terms of what's a normal wear and tear versus what's a damage. We can get into that later, but just to jump in and say normal wear and tear is not deducted.
And I have, as with most things, I have kind of a spiel, that I've come up with over the years. And I say, look, when you move out, I know that there's going to be some scuffs in the walls and some small nail holes from hanging pictures. Those are part of living in a house. If there's a repair, a gouge in something that needs to be replaced, then that's separate or excessive. If the walls are scuffed,
covered in something,
then that's separate. So it's a bit subjective, but I just try to set the tone about how I think about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And along those lines, it's very good practice to take a lot of photos and videos. I actually do this often at move out when the prior tenant is going out, as a way of showing the things that I'm having to charge them for, the coffee grounds in the freezer and the smudge on the door and, stuff like that. But it's also good, just even a video walkthrough can be referred to afterwards. So
exactly. Yeah. And just another tip there, if you're taking all those photos and documentation, property management software, which we've talked about a lot before, it's great for file storage, especially those that have, there are a lot of them out there that have unlimited file storage or just have easy access to upload photos and videos along with the leases. So that really comes in handy. We talk about property management software for doing various tasks, but there are a lot of sort of smaller features like file storage that just really come in handy. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, along with that, Chris, you and I haven't even talked about this, as I just did it for the first time the other day when I just moved a family into a house, and I'm using Turbo Tenant, and they have a newer feature is that they have a property condition report that you can customize as the landlord. So it just has all the bedrooms and the bathrooms that it has, and you can add notes and features and that type of thing. But then it's electronically sent to the new tenants, and I just got it back from them. They filled it out. Now I have to review it and approve it. So, which is brilliant, I think, because then I don't have to figure out where it is in my files or print it out or, so.
Yeah, exactly.
In the same place.
The RHA documentation, it's like an 8-page document that includes a bunch of different rooms that may or may not exist in your unit. And then you got to sign it. Everybody's got to initial it, and then you got to make copies and send it back and forth and that kind of thing. Yeah.
And Chris and I in the past have had conversations about how to physically conduct these move-in inspections. I started several years ago giving the form up until just recently, the paper form to the tenants and saying, as you move in, please fill this out. Then send it to me. I'll look at it. We can talk about any disparities in our understanding there are and clarify things so we can get it to a mutually agreed upon report. There are some benefits of doing it in person because you're both standing there. I moved away from it because it takes a lot of time and it's painful to walk through in detail and then quibble about.
We know things, yeah, little things here and there.
Yeah. So, and it's worked fine.
Yeah.
For me, and I haven't had to actually, but if I had to, I could say, oh, you sent this to me. I don't remember this note you've made here of, large gouge in floor, and good reason to have a video that you took right before they moved in. Let's get together and look at that and talk about that. So.
Right. Yeah, in a lot of cases, it may be nothing, right? They're just the tenants being extra cautious because they don't want to get charged for something down the road. So they're trying to get everything there, and maybe something that really is not a big deal and you were going to let slide anyway. So
you just need to have the same understanding of what
exactly. Yeah. So I've been doing this as well, and I agree. It's just a lot easier. There's less stress over it, and often when you're doing it in person, maybe you just miss something. So it can be caught later, and it's the only issue that I sometimes have is that I have to actually remind them to fill that out and send it back to me.
This is why I'm liking the Turbo Tenant form, because these are very responsive people. I said, please get it back to me, within 4 days, and they did. So you may still have to go back and remind somebody who isn't responsible. But
it's great. Yeah, we'll put the link to that Turbo Tenant product in the description. You should check it out. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. So the walkthrough, it's also a good time to talk about house rules and anything else that's specific to the property that may not have been obvious, like where the garbage is, where circuit breakers are, if there's anything that's a little bit quirky, and lots of times there are. I have a garage that you have to push on the door while you're lifting the lever.
Right.
Otherwise, it just doesn't open.
Right.
I mean, it would seem to be locked
to
anybody else. That's kind of like you got to go through it in person.
Exactly.
Emergency contacts and quiet hours, go through the things that they need to know to live successfully in the property.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, great. So you've done the inspection, filled out everything, you're passed off the forms, but the next is we're going to want to collect deposits and collect the move-in payments while we're there at this first meeting, handing over the property. So in a previous episode, we did talk about collecting deposits from the tenant to secure the property before they move in, right? Like after you've agreed on somebody and they haven't signed the lease or moved in yet, and you want to take the unit off the market, and you take that deposit up front. So if you've done that, then maybe that deposit then becomes all or part of the security deposit that you would collect now up front, or maybe it goes towards rent, like we mentioned before. But either way, now is the time to collect the remaining moving costs. So this would include first month's rent, normally first month's damage deposit. And in some cases, I require last month's rent as well. I know that not everybody does that because it is a big chunk up front, but I generally do. And in some places, you have to allow tenants to pay these move-in costs in installments if they request it. So just take note of any limitations in your area, your city, about how much these move-in costs can be. In some cases, it may be limited to no more than 1 or 2 months rent. So just pay attention and make sure you're doing it right.
Yeah, and one thing on that is to kind of take heed of what the definitions of some of these things are. So security deposit, I think by definition is fully refundable.
Yes.
So, and it's also can be used for unpaid rent, unpaid utilities, fees, fines, kind of any purpose. Some people call it, a non-refundable deposit. I wouldn't call it a deposit. It's essentially a fee. Right. But non-refundable deposit or a damage deposit, a refundable security deposit is fully refundable and can be used for anything.
Right.
There are sometimes cleaning fees or non-refundable deposits. And so it's just important to keep those things separate. And note also that local laws often dictate what the overall amount of each of these things is, including first month's rent, security deposit, fees, application fees, all of the above. So you have to be careful not to exceed local limitations if there are any.
Exactly. And while we're talking about local rules, some will require that you have to deposit that refundable deposit in a specified account, into a trust account, basically so that it's there and stays there and can't be used or commingled with other funds, so that it's there when it's time for a move out, that if they're going to get a refund, that you've got the money to
So the account that you're not using for the operation, for the purpose of operation, is set aside, a separate bank account.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so now we'll talk about how to get the money, how to collect the combination of rent and deposits and fees. So, our favorite, and if you've watched us or read, you'll know, is online rent collection, and in particular using these property management software products. So it's electronic transfer akin to Venmo or that type of thing, but it's set up specifically for rent. There are various perils with Venmo and Zelle and all that you don't have with these. There's better security. They can't claw it back. They can't force payments. So you do want to have enough time. These do take usually 2 days or so to get set up between the time that the tenant puts their bank account information into the software system and then when it's cleared for a transaction to actually happen. And then there's sometimes a transaction initiation and fulfillment of the money actually moving is often a couple more days. So ideally, you would want to allow time for all of that to happen before they moved in.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably the safest thing too, especially the first transaction that you've had with an unknown tenant.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't always, and just like, with a check, when I used to take a check, if they're just about to move in, it wasn't always cleared by the time they were moving in. It's definitely the best idea, but there's a balance. And this brings us back to the importance of verifying people's identity, though, which we've talked lots about in screening. So know that and have a photo ID, and if it's the same person as on the check, that's at least a step in the right direction.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, that's going backwards. And I see, Chris, when you did this outline, you said cash ? Do you think we should you take cash as a deposit?
I have in the past.
Yeah.
I would like to not, but there have been instances where the tenant, just doesn't have a checking account.
Right.
Ideally, they would take their cash into a bank and get a cashier's check so that it's a little bit more secure. But, and like you said, a personal check may not clear in time. So there is that risk.
Yeah, right.
So
I skipped over the cashier's check.
Right. So I would prefer a cashier's check. I have taken cash. I don't like it. I don't think
I think I have.
but,
I think I have in the past as well. And pretty sure you're required in a lot of places to give
a receipt then.
a receipt for that cash. And I'm not personally set up to do that. I think I would tell somebody to go to the bank and get a cashier's check at this point.
Yeah, there's so many more options nowadays. So.
Yeah. So
okay.
And we will put a link to one of our many, but we think our most important article on online rent collection. We'll put a link to that article in the notes below. So you may want to go and look at the options that we've written about for doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so finally, you've done the walkthrough, you've kind of agreed on the condition of things, and you got your money, and now it's time for them to take possession. So you give them keys to the property, fobs, garage door openers, mail keys, anything that's required there. You can give them extra keys, but accounting for keys is tricky sometimes, and you want to make sure that you know where they all are. And then you also want to be conscious of the fact that there's a security element where somebody's had a key and they don't live there anymore. And ideally, they don't still have a key, but maybe they do, or maybe they copied one. So some places require that you rekey between tenants, and we recommend that you do. Seattle requires it. And what I've gone to exclusively, except where I have a door that won't take it, I've gone to coded deadbolt keypad. I don't do the Wi-Fi, fancy ones, but it costs, they're $130 or so, and you can reprogram them in 10 seconds and take the old codes out and put new codes in. And it's going to cost that much to have a locksmith come and rekey a door every time.
Right.
So
that is a good point too, in terms of, I'm sure you've gotten phone calls in the past of, hey, I'm locked out. Can you let me in? And so there's going to be a time element involved, or I said, okay, I will do it, but it's going to cost you X amount, or you can't call between these hours. You got to call your own locksmith, and then they got to get somebody out there themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we've got an article on that. We'll post a link for you to check out an article written particularly on that. Yeah. Chris?
Yeah. So I'm just wrap up here what we've talked about today. The move-in inspections are important. That's why I would put it in here. Take the time to document everything. Photos, video, handwritten, however you want to do it, but do it and do it thoroughly. We recommend more is better. And then know the rules and procedures for collecting the upfront payments, what you can collect, how much you can collect, make sure you're doing it right. And then finally, make sure you get that money, ideally, before you turn over the property and give them the keys, or better, give them the codes.
Right.
Yeah. So next video, stay tuned. We'll be talking about routine maintenance and those types of things once you've got your tenant in place. So check it out, like, subscribe, get notified when they come out.
Thanks for watching.